In today's world of market volatility and uncertainty, your retirement plans need to be front and center. With ever-changing tax laws, healthcare worries, and an unpredictable stock market, don't overlook the vulnerability in your retirement planning. Protecting your family and estate will be difficult with shifting policies in Washington. It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement, the weekly show that keeps you in the know about all things retirement. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome in. And if you're one of our many longtime viewers, welcome back. I'm your host, Rick Everett, along with managing partner and investment advisor Matt Goolsby with Market Advisory Group.
Thanks, Rick.
Lead CPA with Market Tax Services, Joshua Cicora.
Thanks, Rick.
And one of our Medicare advisors with Market Medicare Advisors, Cory Hiebert. Welcome in, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
You save your whole life for this moment, the time to retire. But when it comes time for starting your Social Security, picking a Medicare plan, figuring out taxation on your Social Security, there's a lot of things that come into play. And where do you turn to get the answers to these many questions?
Retirement can be overwhelming. Had a guy the other day said, I've never retired before. I thought that was kind of a poignant statement. There's no Retirement for Dummies book, or maybe there is, I don't know. But when people come in and have questions, that is encouraging to me that they're getting answers to those questions before something's impacted them and cost them thousands of dollars in retirement. But that's not always the case. And a lot of people out there, and maybe this is some of you guys, maybe you're overwhelmed or you're just busy with life and you put things off. And that is not necessarily the best strategy, because you oftentimes will find something's cost you a lot of money after the fact, and that's not when we want anyone finding out something's cost them a lot of money. I mean, take your Medicare, for example. I get questions all the time as a financial advisor, what plan should I pick or what should I do? Or there's a lot of you out there that maybe ask your friends what plans have they picked, or maybe even their parents. And Cory has a story about how that happened. We work with a gal that didn't really work out very well.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. When it comes to Medicare, you're going to have friends, family, and strangers with gray hair that are going to approach you and say, I've got this Medicare thing figured out. You need to do what I did. And for the lady that Matt's referencing, her father was a veteran. And there are Medicare plans designed specifically for veterans that are getting their prescription drugs at the VA. Well, as it turns out, the plan she picked did not have prescription drug coverage because she'd got advice from a veteran. That put her in quite the predicament where she ended up wanting a prescription drug plan and had massive penalties because she had gone years without it. And she's paying upwards of $50 a month extra just to be on the plan that she should have had from the beginning.
You worked with her and you helped her now pick a plan, but unfortunately she's got that penalty. Now, there might be a happier ending to that story here later. We'll put a pin in that. But
Question for you. When did she start Social Security?
Yeah, so she had started her Social Security at 65, and she had started her Medicare benefits right along with her at 65. And she just missed one crucial deadline into getting that Part D prescription drug plan. And now she is forced to pay a penalty for the rest of her Medicare career because she made one little mistake.
Well, and she actually worked with Cory, and she'd been clipping coupons or going pharmacy to pharmacy to try and find the cheapest drugs because she'd not been on this plan, but Cory now helped her get a plan, and it's helping offset. And even though she has that penalty, you worked with her on picking a good plan that helped her for the medications she was on. And it's kind of almost a wash right now, but it's unfortunate she's going to have that penalty forever.
Yeah, the penalty is absolutely killer. It's bad to see that penalty on there, but we were able to find her a prescription drug plan during the open enrollment period. That was the only time she was allowed to add on to her plan. So we did end up saving her money on her prescriptions. We could save her more money if we could get rid of that premium, but that is for life.
But it's interesting you bring up her Social Security, Rick, because she was going to kind of make it on her Social Security. She could just live on that, but she had a retirement account out there, and she knew from hearing either on our shows or our radio shows about that Social Security is not taxed as ordinary income, and if she took a withdrawal, from her retirement account for either, the hot water tank went out, or she wanted to take a trip, or maybe make Christmas extra special for the grandkids. I knew that she needed to talk with one of our tax advisors, CPAs, and walk through that, because she didn't want to just have a surprise come tax time.
And as opposed to other advisors out there on every street corner, we have CPAs right in-house. And I would assume, Joshua, lead CPA with Market Tax Services, you had things to offer.
Yeah, we actually had quite a bit to talk about. The taxation around Social Security, like Matt kind of talked about, it's complex. The IRS, in their spirit of trying to be helpful, provided like a 36-page booklet walking you through how it works, how to figure out what works, different situations where things may happen. IRS writing a 36-page publication is not helpful for anybody. And so we sat down and we kind of talked about it, talked about what income sources she had going on, which at that point was just the Social Security for the most part. She had the retirement account that we could draw out of should different things happen. But then we had to talk about, okay, well, let's say you need to pull some money out. Here's what's going to happen. And we talked about how she might take $1 or $100, however much, out of her retirement account, but that would increase her taxable income. Not just that dollar she took out, but $1.50, $1.85, and how that would affect her tax situation. And then we were able to go from there to talk about not just the Social Security income itself, but also around withholdings for it, how to turn those on, what level is appropriate, whether we should wait on turning that on, and kind of talk about what is the right answer in her situation to get it so that she has a better tax answer than she would get had we just let things go on default and cruise control, if you will.
Sure. Now, Joshua, lead CPA, Market Tax Services.
Mm-hmm.
One wouldn't think in your course of work that you would get questions pertaining to Medicare, but you do.
We do. It comes up because these things tied together, right? So Medicare looks at your income. Taxes look at your income. Your investments look at your income. And so when these pieces touch and tie together, people will come to me. We might start talking with Cory. The client might talk to Cory about their Medicare, but then more often than you would think, I get brought into the room because they have this one-off question that they need to address. Hey, yeah, we're going on Medicare, but I've got this going on. How's that going to impact? And so we'll talk about taxes and their income because they do touch so often.
Well, one of the big surprises that the people that I work with as a financial advisor, they want their withholdings set, and oftentimes Social Security is not their only income source, and the federal government will let you withhold federal taxes from your Social Security, but not state.
Right, because every state treats it a little bit differently. And this is actually one of the biggest surprises people have when they move to retirement. When they're working, they've got this HR group, they fill out a couple forms, their withholdings are set, and they may go 30 years if they stay at the same place of employment, not really ever change that. And when they retire, I always talk about it's like one of those old-time steam locomotives, right? Where there is all kinds of levers and knobs, and these all need to be adjusted to get the performance you want. And so we'll talk about how to adjust their different streams of income so that they get the tax answer they're looking for at the end of the day.
Locomotive, flying an airplane, it's kind of all the same. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to be in check. And I would imagine you, as an investment advisor, probably run into people that don't realize when it's time to start taking those required minimum distributions, those also are taxed unless they're sheltered in a Roth.
And depending on the size of those retirement accounts, it can be a pretty big tax bomb come when they turn 72, or the time when they have to start taking their RMDs. And again, just one more reason why we work together as a team here, because they'll have withholding questions, and we also want to look down the road as a financial advisor and see what those estimated RMDs are, because it could cost them more for their Medicare premiums.
Market Advisory Group is a team. In fact, it's the holistic approach to retirement, helping you out with everything from the financial aspects to tax planning, Medicare advising, and estate planning with Eidelman Law Firm. If you'd like to set up a complimentary no-obligation consultation, our operators are standing by right now to take your calls at 316-252-8707. Again, 316-252-8707. If you'd like to go to our website, ionretirement.com, there you can catch past episodes as well as leave us a question. A lot of times we'll use those viewer questions in future shows. We'll be right back with more Eye on Retirement right after this.
When people work with Market Advisor Group, they get a feel of sense of family. There's a lot of relationships that are made and going on in this conference room, and we really take a lot of pride in that and a lot of satisfaction in that.
Every client we work with, we make a custom-made plan to fit them and help reach their goals in life. Another thing that makes us unique is we want to meet regularly with our clients and have reviews.
Market Advisory Group, we have a process, and the process we take people through is first to understand what they have, understand who they are, and then we put together an income plan for them and show them how they can look forward to retirement and not look, though retirement is going to be a stressful time. It needs to be a stress-free time.
A few unique features of working with Market Advisor Group is holistic in-house financial consultants. We've got an in-house CPA, Joshua, an in-house estate planning attorney, Gerald, an in-house Medicare advisor, Bill. We rely on all of those professionals for, again, additional service within our consultative process, making sure that we've got the advice and the expertise behind the recommendations that we make.
You know, as an advisor, I'm not there to sell them one way or the other. I'm there to educate them, to let them know what their choices are. Then I try to help them make the right choice where they can save money and feel confident in their decision.
Absolutely the best part of my job is getting a stack of paperwork from somebody and they don't know what to do, and then I can turn around and give them back a tax return, but also to be able to explain what they can do next year that will give them a better answer than what they had this year.
When we've got clients that are calling and they need to help out a child or need to help out a grandchild or need to help themselves out and they're in a situation they didn't expect to be in, I really relish the opportunity to help them through that, help them make the educated decisions in somewhat stressful situations, because a lot of folks don't have that type of counsel.
We meet with so many people one-on-one in this office that don't ever end up becoming a customer or doing business with us, and that's okay. But when they leave our office, we know that we've helped them either get some answers to some of the questions they had or get some clarity on maybe their own path.
But one of the things that we hear all the time is, I wish I would have met you guys 10 years ago, because how much further could I be down the road? Well, Johnny Appleseed said, when's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. And so if we can help people today going forward, that just brings an incredible amount of comfort and excitement for us to come to work every day.
Hi, and welcome back into Eye on Retirement. It's not uncommon in a relationship for one partner to have specific household duties and maybe the other take care of finances. But in the unfortunate event where the individual that takes care of the household finances passes away first, it can leave the surviving spouse in a tough spot. Joshua, you have a story where you were preparing someone's taxes and they had questions that you could turn to the team to get help with the answers.
Yeah, this is a rough story. So we'd been doing taxes for this lovely couple for a number of years, and when they came in this year to get their taxes going, only the wife came in. And so when we started talking about what was going on, what was new this year, what was the husband up to at the moment, she explained that he had passed, and it was relatively recent, within the last few months. And so we started working our way through her tax stuff, and she talked about the different things that she had going on that had been benefits he had provided, life insurance, there was proceeds, there was inherited IRAs, there was this, there was that. And I was able to address some of the tax concerns in the moment, but I recognized that we needed to address more than just the taxes. There was income needs for the future, there were assets that needed to be dealt with, and those are things that are really outside my scope as a tax advisor. But luckily I had the full team at Market Advisor Group to talk about that. So we were able to bring Matt into the room and start having conversations about, okay, we've got this bucket, we've got this bucket, we've got this bucket, and we need to play these together to get some long-term income performance out of this.
Matt, we hear about on the show, whether it's this show, Eye on Retirement, or the radio show, Retire Hour, about you as a financial advisor relying on these other team members here, the Medicare advisors, estate planning attorneys, and CPAs. It's common for those other team members to seek out a retirement advisor or an investment advisor when they're meeting with someone that has questions, is it not?
Yeah, and this is a perfect example of that. I mean, this is someone that they had a tax relationship with for years, but the husband, he was just fine on handling those duties on his own, but one day he was there and the next he wasn't. And that's a terrible situation, and oftentimes that's the inevitable, and it's going to happen to all of us. We're going to lose our partner or our spouse. But working together, this is a really exceptional story, because had she not had these resources to rely on, she would have missed out on some things that she really needed to get cleaned up. She had, her husband had inherited an IRA from his brother, so he had that IRA, so it was a second inherited IRA, which there's some different rules now that pertain because of the Secure Act around that. And she had his retirement account from his employer, and like Joshua said, the life insurance proceeds, and she had just been paying her bills every month out of the life insurance proceeds. So she had zero income this year, and with the fact that she had to have all the money out of this inherited IRA within 10 years, there was really, I don't want to say a sense of urgency, that's probably not the right word, right? I mean, but there was a timeline that she needed to be aware of.
There was definitely a clock ticking, not to mention the fact that because he had passed relatively recently, this was her last year to file jointly. As morbid as that seems, that did create some additional unique opportunities that had she waited till we prepare the return next year to have these conversations, we would have missed out on some big time tax moves that needed to be made, but they had a ticking clock to them.
Well, and that's just the point. I mean, so this inherited IRA, not only did she have to have that taken out over 10 years, but she had no income really to speak of, or didn't have a lot of it. And this is something that most people do not realize until it hits them. Not just losing the spouse, but the tax brackets are cut in half. I mean, I think we talked about this on a previous episode, but it bears re-mentioning. You know, the top of the 12% tax bracket for a married couple is...
It's like $83,000, but when you look at a single filer, it's like $41,000. It's exactly half for the single filer as it is for the joint.
And she still had kids at home, which meant then she could file somewhat under those higher numbers for next year and continue to do some good tax planning, right? Called a qualifying
widow. Yeah, that created some additional opportunities, but catching it in the moment during the year was important instead of letting it go till tax return time next year. If we don't deal with these things as they come up, then opportunities to take advantage of some of the tax things can pass by.
And maybe she wouldn't have reached out to a financial advisor because everything was fine in her eyes, but it just so happened that when she came in to get her taxes done, one of our tax team members, Joshua, he recognized that, hey, no, you've got a situation going on here. And oftentimes in this industry, whether it's the financial advisory industry, whether it's the tax industry, whether it's the Medicare industry, the estate planning industry, they don't work together in-house as a team, but they always have people they can refer you to. But you don't want to have to explain all those technical details and get the particulars and the things just right. It's a benefit to the people that are working with us to come in and say, hey, this is something we need to bring in another area of expertise on and get answers in the moment.
And Matt, I recall right before the show you were visiting about this with Joshua, and this particular lady was fairly young, wasn't she?
Yeah, 55. So she had kind of a little ways to go before you look at maybe traditional retirement, which really made it even that much more important, I feel, because why had she waited to look at retirement until 62 or maybe later, there could be a number of, like you said, not maybe missed opportunities, but things she would have missed that she should have addressed in the moment.
Right. And like you said, she was still on the young side. So it's not even like we could talk about Medicare and that was an easy way to handle the health insurance component, which is very important to people. We needed to as we were talking about these different components, also keep an eye on the fact that she probably like have health insurance, crazy enough, and whatever we did needed to be cognizant of that need to make sure that that was addressed in as pain-free a fashion as possible.
Because when her COBRA runs out, if she still has these dependents, AKA that's what you guys call them, I call them kids, but when she has these kids at home that still need health insurance, she might have to turn to the Affordable Care Act, and then you've really got to pay attention to her income.
That's right. There's some pretty hard income thresholds to that if you go over, it gets to be pretty pricey. So it's important that we combine these different disciplines to make sure that we don't get her to a place that gets to be painful.
As sad as this illustration is, it illustrates the importance of having a plan in place. What team do you have looking out for you should something unfortunate happen? At Market Advisory Group, we provide the holistic approach to retirement. Whether it's investment advising, tax preparation and planning, Medicare advice, or estate planning, the whole team goes to work for you. And if you'd like to set up a complimentary no-obligation consultation, our operators are standing by right now at 316-252-8707. We'll be back with more Eye on Retirement right after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. By running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hi, and welcome back into Eye on Retirement. Today we've been discussing scenarios that impact people nearing retirement and in retirement. You've worked your whole life to enjoy your time in retirement, but there can be so many lurking dangers out there. In the last segment this week, Cory, an advisor with Market Medicare Advisors, you work with someone who was given wrong advice when it comes to Medicare. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do think it's a little bit funny whenever somebody comes into my office and they say, yeah, Cory, I've already done a bunch of research about Medicare. I think I got this figured out. Because unless you are getting your information directly from Medicare.gov, there are a million websites out there that will all have a little bit of different information when it comes to how you should handle your Medicare situation. So this gentleman that I was working with, he was receiving his information from his employer's HR department. Now, your employer's HR department has always been there for you through your working career. They've been able to handle your 401k contributions, your health insurance, and different workplace added. But they're not Medicare experts. They may know just enough about Medicare that they're able to use some of the correct terminology, even if they don't have a full understanding of what that terminology means. And the last thing, and the most important thing when it comes to Medicare, is having an established timeline and knowing exactly when you need to be filing paperwork. Because if you miss one deadline, you could be responsible for penalties the rest of your life.
Now, Cory, you said before the show that his work, his HR department, told him that he needed Part B and that was covered under his plan?
Yeah,
his group plan of insurance.
He had been working with his HR department, and his HR department had told him when you turn 65, you need to start Part B of Medicare. So he continued to have his work insurance and also had Medicare A and B. So when he came in to sit down with me, my very first question, how are you currently set up with Medicare? He tells me this story and says, I have not used Medicare once. I've been paying the premium for Part B for 5 years, but haven't touched my Medicare once. I've always used my work coverage. That threw up instant red flags, and I say, why did you take Medicare? My HR department told me to. Okay, we have a problem. You're paying for 2 insurances, and you're only using one of them. You've never touched this Medicare. So what we did was we were able to craft a letter together. I helped them out with some of the verbiage because there were some key words that you have to tell the Social Security office. But they were able to look back and realize that he had never made a claim on his Medicare, that he had had his employer's coverage the entire 5 years that he was working. And believe it or not, we were actually able to get a 5-year return on premium that he had paid since he had never used that healthcare plan. It was an incredible story, and to this day, I had met with him about 6 months ago. To this day, he still is not on Medicare. So he's quit paying all of these premiums and got a return for the 5 years he'd been paying and not needed it.
Matt, you get questions about Medicare all the time, but how often do you hear about somebody getting money back from them?
Very, very rarely. This is a unique experience, but again, just one example of many that we've talked about today, how working together as a team is so beneficial. And I want to think that it makes myself a better advisor for the people I'm helping, because these are questions that we do get all the time. And yeah, I might have heard this or I might have read that article, but I want to rely on these fields of tax expertise, Medicare advice, estate planning help to help people get the answers in real time. And I don't have to say, hey, I have someone I can refer you to. We can bring them in the conference room and get them answers right there. And that helps because normally, I had a science teacher in 6th grade said normally whenever you answer one question in science, you get 2 or 3. And that happens in these conversations. More questions come out.
And it illustrates once again why having the team aspect going to work for you in retirement planning is so critical. At Market Advisory Group, we offer a holistic approach to retirement, from the investment planning and strategies to tax planning, Medicare advice, and estate planning, and we do it all under one roof. Our operators are standing by to take your call right now at 316-252-8707. Again, 316-252-8707. That's all the time we have for this week. I'm Rick Everett, and I'm here reminding you that we're here to keep an eye on retirement.
This broadcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or is excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by security regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Legal services are offered by Edelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Investment advisory services are offered by Foundations Investment Advisors LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.